Hello everyone, Joel here from Golf Monthly. Hope you're well, and in this video we're talking about these. Yep, that's right, graphite shafts, and specifically graphite shafts in irons, and whether a golfer like myself, so relatively low handicapper, fastest swinging golfer, should or could consider a switch to graphite, and what are the differences in performance in terms of graphite shafts compared to steel shafts. There's a lot of kind of preconceptions about graphite shafts. Are they only for slow swinging golfers, senior golfers, lady golfers? They tend to be less stable, they're obviously a lot lighter and also a bit more expensive, and maybe you don't get the extra performance that you're looking for that increase in price. But I really wanted to kind of dive into that and test out a graphite shafted iron compared to a steel and see exactly what the differences in performance were and whether I should or could consider a switch. We did this with the help of Yonex. So Yonex have come along and given us a couple of their new E-zone forged irons. So we've got the 301 model and the 501 model, 301 being a slightly smaller cavity back iron and the 501 being a little bit bigger in profile, thicker top line, slightly wider sole, probably more similar to the iron I currently play in the TaylorMade P760. And we've tested both of these irons in the Nippon Modus 3 Tour 120 steel shaft, and then in a like-for-like comparison we tested it in this Yonex NST 400 graphite shaft. Now this is 44 grams, but it does have quite low torque. I believe it's around about 2.6 torque. So torque basically is the kind of, you think about the flex being the kick of the shaft in this direction, the torque is basically the kind of twisting in this direction. So it's quite low torque, which means it's got quite a strong resistance to twist. And Yonex say their graphite shafts have one of the highest ratios of graphite fibres to glue and resin on the market, which they say should mean it's pretty stable basically, and basically one of the better performing graphite options on the market. Like I mentioned, this is a 44 gram shaft and I've got it in the stiff regular flex. So it's somewhere in between stiff and regular, but Yonex say it should play a little bit closer to stiff, and this is the stiffest option available within this iron range. So obviously outside of Yonex there are a lot of other graphite shaft options out there that are stiffer than this, or maybe even lower torque as well. You go to an independent fitter, they'll have a whole host of different graphite shafted options. But we're going to try this one on the FlightScope launch monitor that Darren from Yonex has brought along with him. We're going to test our own club, we're going to test the steel options in these heads and the graphite options to see exactly what differences in performance are and whether I need to be considering a switch. So let's have a look at the numbers. Right, okay, so I have my phone here with all the relevant numbers from the FlightScope launch monitor. We tested our own 7-iron first, so this is in my Project X steel shaft, then we moved into the 501 model. So obviously mine kind of base numbers with my current club are a little bit irrelevant, but we'll just talk you through them now anyway. Average carry of 162 yards, ball speed of 116, spinning at 6,000, which is kind of where I would expect it to be. And then we've got a launch angle of 17.6 degrees and a peak height of around about 88 feet, so just under 30 yards. So there's a pretty typical numbers for me. As you'd expect, it's my current 7-iron, and that's at 34 degrees of loft. So then we moved into the E-zone forged 501 model. So this is similar in kind of concept in terms of size and profile to the iron I currently play. And this is 32 degrees of loft, so naturally you would expect more distance, and we first tested it in the steel shaft. So this is the Nippon Modus 3 Tour 120, and you see the ball speed did jump up there to 119 miles an hour, and we've got club speed actually came down because it's a slightly shorter shaft to 88.4, so slower club speed, more ball speed, again stronger loft, you'd expect that. Average carry of 169 yards, so that's a relatively big jump of around 7 yards. Did also flight the ball a little bit lower in terms of peak height, and it was launching lower as well, 14.5 degrees. So there were the numbers we got with the steel shafted Yonex, and then we moved into the graphite shafted Yonex with the shaft we talked about earlier, and you can see there was significant difference here. I guess, you know, first thing to look at was the ball speed. So with the graphite shafted option, same club head, got a big jump in ball speed of 2 miles an hour, 1.2, and then a jump in carry distance up to 172.7, so around about 4 yards longer with the graphite. Interestingly, the spin is also a lot higher. With the graphite, it's basically around about 900 RPM more spin, which is significant, I would say. Also a significant jump in the launch angle as well, 17.1 degrees, so just under 3 degrees higher launch. And then you look at the peak height as well, 92 feet. So, you know, from steel to graphite, we're going up around about 3 to 4 yards there with the graphite. So we're just going to hit a few away with the steel shafted option here. Pretty good hit, nice and straight. And then if we move on to the graphite, I just wanted to kind of try and convey to you exactly what the differences are. Obviously it feels, you know, immediately lightweight on the pickup, but if you notice, it's not whippy at all. It is, like I said, a low torque design, so it's not whippy down by the club head at all. Obviously it makes the club head feel a little bit heavier, which you would expect. So if anything, you get a bit more awareness of what the club head is doing in the swing. Dead straight down the middle, obviously a much higher ball flight, you know, but for me, I was really surprised, having tested this a little bit earlier, you know, I'm not seeing a big digression of dispersion. It's still pretty straight, and if I want to flight the ball a bit lower, which I will try and do now, you know, I can do that. That was a slightly lower flight, similar to the steel shafted option. So yeah, I'm very, very impressed with what this graphite shaft from Yonex has to offer in an iron, and it's definitely something that more golfers should consider. You know, not just high handicappers, you know, maybe mid handicappers, even high single figures, thinking about what graphite can do for their games. It definitely feels easier, definitely gets the ball up in the air a lot easier, and that's going to benefit an awful lot of players, potentially more than you might think. Straight down the middle. So clearly there are some obvious differences in performance there, but I guess the big question is, you know, are those changes that I would want to see, and would I consider putting them in the bag based on what I've seen from this test? It's an interesting one. You know, I hit some shots initially. Darren looked at my clubhead speed. He said, oh yeah, clubhead speed is around about 90 miles an hour. I would fit you into a steel shaft. So that kind of put him on the back foot a little bit with the graphite shaft. But then having a hit with this shaft, I actually really enjoyed what this offered. Obviously it feels incredibly light. It's around about 80 grams lighter than what I currently play. So the feel was incredibly different to what I currently play. I didn't really feel like it was any less stable or more difficult to control than my current iron or the steel shafted option. Definitely flighted the ball higher. The flight window was noticeably higher, and that would obviously be a concern with shots into the wind, say, especially when you think about the high spin you're getting as well. Into the wind, it probably would climb and struggle to kind of get the distance I would want. But then you think about the stopping power you'd get with this club, the extra clubhead speed I got, and how easy it felt to produce that. And I found I could actually flight the ball a little bit lower with this if I wanted to. And I think the feel is also something I really enjoyed. It definitely felt obviously lighter, but also smoother in that kind of transition. Just felt like it was less mobile, if you like. I don't know if that's that low torque design. I just really enjoyed hitting it, and I felt like I had just as much control of the club head in this graphite shaft as I did the steel shaft. There are obviously some negatives. We've talked about the extra spin and the height might not suit everyone, but if you are a low launch, low spin player, maybe graphite is an option you could definitely consider. That lightweight feel should allow you to practice for a little bit longer. Definitely felt a lot easier on your body, so if golf is something that, you know, physically you struggle with, graphite shaft definitely takes some of the strain off your body. It might even allow you to practice for a little bit longer than you did before, and that's a good thing, especially if you're a slightly older golfer. That's really going to help you and encourage you to play a bit more golf. In summary, I probably wouldn't switch, but I was a lot closer to switching to graphite than I thought I was going to be. And definitely, you know, if I was to try some other options outside of Yonex, you know, there's some independent fitters that have a much wider array of shaft flexes, profiles, and weights available to me. You know, definitely potentially something a little bit heavier than 44 grams that I've got in this one. Maybe something around that 60 gram mark that's a little bit firmer in the tip. Maybe that would give me the flight that I'm looking for my iron shots, while also offering me that lightweight feel as well. So definitely food for thought, I think, with graphite shafts. The other caveat is they do come in at a higher price point. You know, this Yonex His own forged 501 model is £220 a club in steel and £270 a club, I believe, in graphite. So it's a £50 increase through the set, and if you're getting 7 clubs, you do the maths, that's a big jump in price with graphite. But I think there are golfers out there who would benefit from having this kind of lightweight graphite shaft design. Hopefully you found this video useful in terms of ascertaining what graphite shafted irons are all about. And you know, when you think about some of the big name tour players that are putting graphite shafts in the bag, Bryson DeChambeau recently switched into a full set of graphite shafted clubs. Clearly there is merit in the design if you get the right flex and torque and weight for your game. You know, definitely there is performance gains to be had. Guys, thank you for watching. Make sure you comment down below, let me know what you think of this video. What were your preconceptions about graphite shafted clubs? Is there a bit of a stigma around graphite shafted irons, and is that fair? I think they get a bad rap, actually. You know, I think there is a bit more to them than that, and I'd love to know what you thought about graphite shafted irons before watching this video. So let me know what you think. But thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon.